Ew. Ew. So now that the sketch is all done and I'm kind of happy where everything is placed out, I'm going to go in and start blocking in some of the bigger shapes. I'm still going to be using some of that burnt sienna. I'm going to throw in a little bit of raw umber for some of the darker areas and then a touch of titanium white for the lighter areas. So let's dive right back in. My objective in this point of the painting is to block out the dark and light values and to start building some structure and volume. I'm trying to create a roadmap of where I want everything to be by using the simplest shapes possible. It's sort of like the sketch part 2, where the first stage is mapping out all the outlines and contours of everything. In the second phase of the sketch, I'm looking to make sense of all those outlines. It's important at this point to start adding some interest, as some of this is going to actually show through in the final painting. And as a result, it's going to add a lot more depth and interest to the overall piece. Now, although this is a very routine part of painting for me, I think the scale of this particular piece really started to become apparent. So now would be a good time to mention that this is the first painting I've done in like literally months. For some reason, the rational part of my brain that would say, let's do a small little painting to get you back in the swing of things. Like that place was just completely on vacation, and this other part of my brain was like, no, let's do this really ambitious, large painting. Like, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Let's do this a massive painting. The first painting back after months of not painting. Like, clearly it's working. Clearly I'm doing something. But like, damn, I wish that other part of my brain was like, hey, why don't we just like, I don't know, paint a flower or paint a vase? It's like, no, let's do this incredibly large painting. One of the largest oil paintings you've ever done. Let's just do that. Let's start with that. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, you haven't painted in 3 months. No problem. Let's just do this massive oil painting. Like, what was I thinking? Now, after I tried to rationalize my decision making and get back into the painting, that's when I noticed something. So I made a little bit of a mistake. Some areas seem a little too bloated, some seem a little bit too thin. I think I rushed my sketch a little bit too much. I guess that's what happens when you're a little bit rusty. So I think if I would have been a little bit more patient with the sketch, made sure the proportions were right, the perspective was a little bit better, I could have avoided this problem, but here we are. So I'm gonna have to come back in here, carve some stuff out, add some stuff, move some things around. It's gonna take a little bit of time, but I mean, at least it's something I can fix now and it's not like a major rework. But yeah. Let's do some Band-Aid work here. Thankfully, I noticed this early on in the painting. Nothing would be worse than getting halfway through your painting and realizing that your sketch was wrong. The sketch in underpainting is like the foundation of your house. And it doesn't matter what type of flooring you put in there, what type of shingles you put on the roof, the type of energy saving windows you put in that house. If your foundation is not solid, you're going to have a faulty house and you're going to run into problems in the future. Okay, well this is much better, much better. This is a lot more loose and a little bit more suggestive, which is more what I wanted. I think I was focusing a little bit too much on the details before, and this is not a time to get caught up in the details. This is literally just an underpainting. And now comes the scary part. I'm going to be doing the rest in oil paint. Oil paint's expensive, it's very expensive. I haven't done a large painting like this in oil paint, like ever. I don't know if it's a good idea. I don't know if it's a bad idea. Oh, it's an expensive idea. I know that. I'm procrastinating. So I'm just gonna break it down, tackle it simple. Yeah. All right, enough procrastinating. Let's get into it. For this piece, I'm gonna be using some ivory black, some ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, and titanium white. And for mediums, I'm going to be using Gamblin's solvent-free safflower alkyd painting medium, which is basically just a medium that increases the flow of the oil paint, but it's non-toxic. When I start to do the actual painting process, I'll always have liked to work from dark to light. And it's not necessarily about just taking that ivory black and putting it all over the place. I like to try and find dark hues that will add some more interest into those shadow areas. So in this case, adding some purple will create a little bit more interest into that rather simple shadow area. And to help exaggerate that interest, I'm trying to be very sporadic with my brushwork. I'm still trying to be accurate and direct, but I'm really trying to let the abstraction try and pull information into the piece as opposed to trying to paint every little individual rock that would be there. And this is actually posing to be quite difficult for me because this is not typically how I paint. It's a big painting. You know, it's interesting. I've painted in a certain way for so long that I've built this structure, this method in how I paint things. It has its own challenges, but it's very predictable. And I think that's kind of the idea behind this whole painting, is that it's so big and such a different challenge that I can't stick to that structure. I could, but it would take so much mental and physical energy and time that it just wouldn't be worth it. But you would think because there's not as much structure involved that it should be easier. And maybe that's mentally the barrier I'm having, is that because I think it should be easier, when in all reality, maybe it's very difficult. And there's such an art form in simplicity. And maybe that's more what I need. I just need to be more simple. But it doesn't change the fact that there's a lot more paint to go on here. And yeah, I've procrastinated so long that my hair has fallen out. Not actually, I got a haircut, but you know. Okay, well, let's get back to it. As I move forward on with this piece, I started to gain more and more momentum. I started to trust that the abstraction
was going to create the detail I needed, as opposed to painting the detail I thought it needed. It was much more loose, it was much more enjoyable, and it was much more rewarding to see it all come together slowly, piece by piece, with each abstract movement. But it was this balance I needed. I couldn't be too abstract because I still wanted it to make sense, but it needed to be simple enough that I wasn't going to get caught up in the details, and it was walking along that tightrope the entire time, this sort of dance, trying to figure out what I could abstract and what I needed to put a little bit more attention to. And I truly think the only way I would have come to this conclusion or come to this understanding was doing something on this scale. It was simply too big of a painting to do the way I used to do it without going insane.
We're finally getting somewhere. As you can see now, everything's starting to make a little bit more sense. I'm really liking how the water is. It's very abstract and it's very chaotic. There's still some areas I gotta clean up. There's still a lot of work to go, but I'm really excited now because every brushstroke that I do from now on is really going to start to tie in and slowly make this piece more unified and complete. So I think what I'm going to do is take a little bit of a break from the water right now. I'm going to go back and work on some of these rocks, kind of build some more form to them, and really just start narrowing this thing home. Wish me luck.
My goal with these rocks was to create as much texture as possible. The reason why I wanted to do this was because a way to create more depth in a painting is to start introducing texture or impasto. So very much how these rocks are going to be much closer to the viewer than the far distant waves will be. It's better suited to have these rocks have more texture and interest to them than the soft sort of waves in the background. Even though it could be really chaotic in the background and there could be a lot of energy going on back there, in order to create a bigger illusion of depth, I'm going to put more texture on these rocks. So I'm going to load up my brush with a little bit more paint. I'm going to use a very tough bristled brush and sort of just slap on the paint there to try and create as much ripples and impasto with that paint to sort of try and exaggerate that sense of depth even more.
So I went away for a few days, and this is me getting myself reacquainted with the image. Everything's sort of settled in together. It's kind of unified a little bit. Most obviously, I need to work on this water. Kind of regretfully, I wish I would have finished it off when I was painting it. I'm gonna run into some issues because now this is completely dry. We'll be dealing with a lot of hard edges. Hopefully, this is my last painting session. It's been a little over a month at this point, doing a couple hours a night here and there, so it'd be nice to knock this one home.
And just like that, this 1 month journey has finally come to a close. Let's sit back, relax, and enjoy the glamour shots. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video, leave a like and consider subscribing. Don't forget to hit that little bell notification to get notified as soon as I drop a new video. And leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts of this piece. Did you like it? Do you think there's something I could have done better? I would love to hear your feedback down in the comments. Thanks again so much for watching, and I hope you all have a really great day.